What's up, everybody? Back again so soon. So soon. Feels kind of weird doing a stream like 2 days ago and then being back at it, but glad to be here. Glad to be here. Uh, Today we have the one that, everybody knew was coming sooner or later. Um, Anybody that's been a part of the channel, I love doing these videos, not because um, I just enjoy like theorizing and kind of predicting things, and it's cool when you're wrong. It's a lot funnier when you're wrong, and then it's cool if you're right, right? Like um, like the whole situation where I said Icelander was C tier, and Rhea then immediately won back-to-back battle hardens on it. I mean that like it couldn't have written itself better, right? Um, so I am super excited. I have spent a lot of time just mulling over, making sure that I did not miss anything. I literally, this is something I haven't done before. I've like always just kind of like winged it a little bit, and like this goes here because it makes sense, and then but this time I was like literally put the hero there. I was like, okay, now that that hero's there and everybody else is here, how does this person go into that person? And it looked like a conspiracy chart is what it ended up looking like. But I think we got something. When's the Brute video coming out? It should be out, I think, tomorrow. Don't quote me on that, but it'll be tomorrow, or um, it's probably not Friday because we're doing the show match with Blue Pitch on Friday. Do not miss that. We will be playing a 5v5 with Team Blue Pitch. And yeah, so like, looking forward to that. There's some amazing players on that team. I think every one of them cashed at Worlds. They had 2 in the top 8, 2 more in the top 16, and then another one at like, I don't know, top 32. I mean, it was just insane. Insane. So we have a show match that we're just trying to show the new set. We didn't pick like what we thought was the most meta pick or anything like that. We tried to make sure that each hero was like playing a lot of the new cards, kind of things like that, and that way we could show people, some interesting ideas on how to start deck building with the new cards and stuff like that behind some really good players. So I hope everybody can join us for that. Is heavy hitters the most excited you've been for Fab? Justin, I gotta say yes. Outsiders was kind of cool, but it didn't really hit any of the heroes that like I particularly enjoyed the play style of. But yeah, like I've really looked for. I did look forward to Dust Till Dawn until it was spoiled. That one was. I was like, yes, Shadow Runeblade. Like up until the spoiler season, like that was the set I was most into. But then after the spoilers came out, I was like, we'll see. And then it turned out to be what was anticipated. However, Outsiders, Bright Lights to some extent, and then Heavy Hitters. 3 great sets in a row is what it seems like. Well, I guess Dust Till Dawn was between Outsiders and Bright Lights, but what can you do? What can you do? It seems like we're on the right direction. Okay. So, in case we have anybody new here, no way he's lying. He decided when Briar stayed at 998. It was funny because I actually sent out a tweet like literally 3 days before the LL update happened, and I was like, who do I talk to at LSS for getting the Prism 998 treatment? And then literally it happened, and I was like, couldn't have done it better. LSS has put in a lot of work to balance heroes, and now it's a lot harder to identify outliers. Absolutely. Absolutely. What is this set? Codex of Frailty? I would have to say that the closest comparison is going to have to be Trounce, more than likely. The only thing is it's not as flexible as Codex of Frailty is. So it's definitely not as good, but it's probably like the best card in the set, depending on how it's utilized. And yeah. So what I wanted to do first, if there's anybody that's joining us that's new, that hasn't seen me want to do these, I like to lay a burden of proof. Just, why you should take somebody's advice on why they think the meta is going to shape out how it will, kind of situation. And so I just wanted to show the prediction that I had for Worlds. This is time stamped, obviously, no funny stuff, and it was pretty dead on. You basically have all 6 of the top most represented decks at top. I mentioned some people that were great at answering the meta. We saw Rhinar almost make it to the top 8 at Worlds. We had Katu in the top 8 at Worlds. We saw a breakout of Bolton and Prism at the 20K. That was shortly after Worlds. I also predicted that as far as Bright Lights heroes are concerned, from best to worst was Dash.io, Max, and then Teklevossen. That turned out to be the case. I was a little higher on Teklevossen than he ended up, but I'm just happy that I got the order correct. That's the most important thing. And yeah, so what's up, Mar? Good to see you. Yeah, you caught it just in time. We just started. We're doing a tier list for CC. Absolutely. So I just want to show that, I got some decent ideas. I'm not always right. Nobody ever is. And I've been wrong. Obviously, I said Icelander was C tier at one point, and that was not the case, right? And then Rhea kind of revolutionized that deck in regards to, Warmongers and how it interacted. But then the Lexi players adapted with Trench and stuff like that. So it's hard to go that far with it, right? But yeah, I was definitely pretty spot on. All in all, I should have had Levi a little bit higher, probably. That's my biggest complaint. But everything else was pretty good. So before we get started, I have a little. I laughed about this about an hour ago, and I got to share it. It was the funniest thing. Oh, the wife's looking at me, and I'm about to talk about her. So, okay. So I downloaded this PAL World game that I'm sure everybody's heard of by now, and my wife sat down in my chair, and I was watching her, and she goes, "How do you move the character?" And I was like, "It's WASD." And so she's walking around, and she goes, "How do you jump?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's probably spacebar," because I just downloaded it. And so I watched her try to jump on a hill, but she wasn't hitting W and jump at the same time. So then I was like, "Yeah, you have to hold the W and hit the spacebar." And she took her hand. She did something I've never seen before. She took her hand off the mouse, held down W, and smashed the space bar with her other hand. I was like, "Babe, you just hit it with your thumb." Y'all, she's such a gamer. She tries. I just wanted to share that. Yeah, I got a good laugh out of it. I'm sure you guys will too. Oh, Dromai S tier. Everybody else F tier. And we're done. We can go home. Oh, if only it was that easy. Okay. I think we are ready to go ahead. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. So I downloaded it literally 3 hours ago, probably. Josh wanted to play it, so we did it. Okay, we did it. Um, I gave in. I gave in. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Um, this one might go a little longer because, like I said, we're gonna make sure that we get everything on point. We're gonna make sure that we are in there. Okay, let me get this fixed up. Make where chat can see and disagree with me, of course, because that's usually what happens, and that's okay. If you disagree with anything I say, please voice your opinion. And is the tier list for RTN season L? This is going to be any. Okay. So the way that I do tier lists is sometimes I'll throw in like, I expect a hero to be strong at the beginning and then kind of teeter out once people get familiar on like how to play against it. I'll make those kind of notions, but we really don't have any. RTN season is going to give us the first sample of like what the meta really is, because we only have what Battle Harden. If I'm not mistaken, the only CC event is Battle Harden Hartford. The calling is sealed, and Liverpool is sealed as well. So we really have like maybe a Battle Harden, maybe two, in Classic Constructed to give us any type of like inclination of what the meta is. However, yeah, like, you know, RTN season is the first time we'll actually see it. But yeah, this is going to be for RTN season / LA unless something breaks the meta and revolutionizes it, basically, is where I was getting at. Turtle Dash, best deck. Brute, very unplayable. Please don't bring Brute. Please. Yeah, that sounds a little biased. But that's okay. I'm be recording a Flesh and Pod in half an hour. Awesome. I can't wait to see that. Well, thanks for being here until then. I appreciate it. Okay, let's go and get started. Anybody that's seen these before, I like to start with the first heroes and work our way down. Is the way. Don't do my girl Vincent dirty. We'll have to see. That's gonna be a ways away because we're starting with WTR. Okay, let's go ahead and start with Bravo. Okay, I'm not putting him in B. I just put him there while I talk about him. Okay. So Bravo obviously has had the most recent success pretty much ever since Icelander left the format. He's been pretty consistently in the top 8. Hamilton, of course, won the most recent Battle Hardened with him. Bravo's been doing pretty good. No complaints on his performance. He is consistent. He's gotten a couple upgrades. I would not say a lot. Probably like Test of Vigor might make it into the list and instead of like Fate Foreseen or something like that. And then, of course, you might run the Gauntlets instead of Crater Fist, right? So just some slight upgrades into an already solid game plan. I could see a situation where he shifts to a lower blue count and you run a lot more like 4-cost attacks, and you have a situation where basically, you lean on the Vigor tokens a lot more. I could see a Vigor token centric Bravo list coming up in the future, but then you have to ask yourself, why aren't you playing Victor kind of situation? So just keep an eye out for that type of archetype. But I think that everybody can probably agree that he is a top tier deck. Now, is he the best deck? Probably not. Maybe, who knows? We'll compare the top decks when we get more up there. We'll like closer compare and like move them about and so. But yeah, I mean he's solid into most of the field. Obviously, he's going to have some trouble into Prism depending on how they built their list. A very good Leviathan can be kind of scary. Same for Rhinar. But you're pretty good into Azalea. You're good into Dash IO if that still ends up being a thing. I think you're pretty decent into Dromai. I I don't think you're particularly favored or under. I mean, I consider it close to a 50-50 with the aggressive Tunic pummel list, things like that. Obviously, Dash has always been rough, but I think he has proven himself to be a solid deck, and nothing has happened to make him actively worse, with the exception of Prism getting better and Bolton getting cards. Those are the two things that are kind of negative. However, I think he's still a top contender. Okay. Viscera support from the top rope, guys. Viscera could use some love, and the newest card that they got in the set was not that. Yeah, it's still an 80-80. You're right, you're right, Mara. 100%. 80-80 matchup. So yeah, I think that it's fair to put Bravo in S tier. Is he the best deck? We'll see, but we'll go from there. Okay, so let's go with Rhinar next. Okay, Rhinar got some support. A decent. He got a whole new hero card with different art. But nope. Luminar's Prism is going to really struggle into Bravo. It really depends on like the blue count and how hard their sideboard plan goes into the Iris plan. I know some lists are running like very aggressively into the Herald package, running a lot higher yellow count. Those lists are basically going to be an auto lose into Bravo. However, the choice is the Prism player is the unfortunate part about it. Basically, how much do they want to hedge into the Iris plan for high 6 count decks? Basically, it's their ball court. Basically, it's up to them whether they want to win the aggro matches or the slow grindy ones. Up to them. You don't think new Prism can run hybrid? Yeah, I think they have to sacrifice on one end. I think you can fit it in there, but it's not like it was before where you just switch. I think you had to sacrifice on some end, probably in the number of like 5 to 6 cards. So where you would run like enough blues to run Iris. If you leaned all the way into the weapon, I think you're like 6 blues shy of like having an Iris plan that you really want. So we'll see. So Rhinar, he got a whole new hero card that has the same text, didn't change, and basically got a few upgrades. Once again, I don't think he got a lot. Apex was cool. The arm piece, I think he'll run that. Rhinars typically don't rely on scabbies a whole lot, depending on how you play it, of course. So I think swapping in the 5 value on the Apex is a given. It just makes sense. And you also got the specialization, which I think is a straight up upgrade from Alpha Rampage. Not saying that you will take them out for a 1-for-1 exchange. However, I think that there is going to be some situations where you might cut Alpha Rampage down to 1 or 2, if not cut them completely, and then put in the, I think it's Show No Mercy, I think is the specialization card. Other than that, there's the Beat Chest Intimidate, which is the cheapest way to get off a double Intimidate on one attack card that we've ever seen. I think it's Rawhide Rumbler, I believe is the name of it. It seems pretty decent. I think it's a lot more than 5 to 6 card to make the strat viable. I haven't tested specifically. I just can, when I'm doing my theorizing, right? I can just see the number of cards that don't make it. So I know they're making a sacrifice, but you could be 100% right that the sacrifice could be more than 6 cards. Absolutely. So, okay. So Rhinar was okay in the meta before, right? Like he would give Bravo a hard time. Bad against Azalea, great against Dash, which was a heavy player in the last meta. And historically has been good against Dromai. I know some Dromai players will disagree with that, but historically has been really good into that deck. So he's been a solid, meta call. I wouldn't say he is meta. I would say that he is a good answer to said meta. So I'm going to place Reinar, even with the upgrades, in A tier. I don't think he quite makes it. And a lot of this is actually that there might just be better brutes, to be honest. But Reinar, I think, is still a solid deck choice in the meta going forward. So I'm going to place Reinar in the A tier, and we will see where he ends up in that threshold as we get some new heroes on the chart. Okay. Next one. Let's go ahead and talk about Katsu. Okay, now Katsu just got the one card, the blue. I've had quite the debate on whether that's a good card, a great card, a bad card, a waste of cardboard. You know, I've had the conversation all in between, right? Me personally, I think the card's extremely mid. I don't think it's amazing. I think that you pay an opportunity cost when you take out your worst blue, which I would consider Winds of Eternity, right? You just give up the opportunity to play a blue for 4 damage when you play that card. And a lot of things kind of have to go right. So I don't think it's that good of a upgrade for Katsu. The card boys tier list. What's up, Nick? How you doing? So I don't think much has changed for Katsu. I think fundamentally he's just still doing what he's doing. Could you incorporate that new card and add a little bit of like high roll potential? Absolutely. You have that option. Do your thing. He obviously hasn't been bad. Took him to a top 8 at Worlds. And I think we had some decent, I think Naib was playing Katsu at the 20K, did fairly well. I think he bubbled out of top 8. So Katsu's been in a fairly decent spot, and I don't see that particularly changing. I would say that there are a couple heroes that are coming into the meta, specifically from the new set, that may give him trouble, particularly in regards to Victor. I think Victor's going to give Katsu a run for his money pretty badly. If you thought Guardian was bad before, wait till you play Katsu into Victor, and it's going to get a whole lot worse. I promise you that. So, yeah, the gauntlets on Guardian just shifted that matchup because it just allows you to disrespect the shit out of their attack, right? You just say, okay, you have to have ancestral empowerment and you have to break your breaking scales just to hit, right? If you block even with the gauntlets is what I'm saying, because it's basically lowers the attack if it ever gets +1. Obviously, that's not enough to stop a Razor Reflex, but regardless, that piece of equipment into either ninja is literally amazing, and it's going to stop. You're basically going to get the shelter of a D-React without even running them, which means it gives you the opportunity to play a more mid-rangey game plan, slightly more aggressive, and then you can deck them out via offensive attrition, basically. So I think Katsu is probably on the bottom end of A tier. Could also see him at the top of B. I'm not too high on Katsu, but we'll let him hang out in A until we get more heroes. But depending on who we put up there, he could easily make his way down to B. Solid hero, has some weaknesses, and there's some people coming into the meta that might kind of not be a very conducive environment for Katsu. Victor here. Where is Bubba tier? Victor's coming up at the end, of course. We're going in a row. We're going WTR all the way to the end. Okay, now we got to talk about Dory. Dory's probably the hardest one to actually give a rank to because she got so many cards. If you've ever seen my tier list, I do rate Dory probably higher than most people do off the rip, just because obviously I have the teammate Josh Lau, and that's probably the best Dory player in the world, if not up there. And so I know what she's capable at the highest level. And so if my tier lists always reflect her higher than what you would think, that probably translates to why. And I think there's multiple ways to play Dorinthia. I think you can do a value hatchet plan. I think you can do the traditional Dawnblade. The biggest thing is that basically Dory has so much access to unconditional go again now that if you thought Twinning Blade was a good card, now it's actually just insane. The question is, are people blocking her enough to where Twinning Blade actually has text, right? Because typically Twinning Blade is best when they lay down their whole hand trying to reset counters, and then you just Twinning Blade and then go around, right? That's typically how that card is used to its highest potential. So Dory obviously got a slew of optional cards. I think the Shift Yellow, the Majestic that gives go again and makes an agility token. She also has agility token, potential with the Dawnblade. It's very rare now that you will ever see Dory throw a quote unquote naked Dawnblade, right? You're always going to have go again. You're always going to have, tricks up your sleeves with either agility tokens and stuff like. I mean, it's just playing against Dory is going to be harder than it ever has been because of so much go again. Before she was kind of limited by those things. But with that being said, I think that Dory will probably land at the top of B, but could break into A. So kind of the opposite situation of Katsu, where I think she's got it. But she does have a little bit more burden of proof than Katsu does, kind of situation. But I do see a situation where you can easily just swap those. I think it's that close. But for now, and once again, as we go and we put more heroes on the board, we will reevaluate. Just because they go there does not mean it's final. We're going to reevaluate as we go, as we get more heroes. Okay. So let's go to Arcane Rising. Okay, let's go ahead and hit up Dash. Dash is an interesting one. Okay, so obviously if this was before the set, Dash would be an easy S tier hero. I don't think there's any argument there. The question is she still? The rise of Prism is good for Dash. I think Dash has everything in her toolkit to combat Prism. A lot of sixes, high octane action points, things of that nature. So that's not a problem. There's Guardians coming into the format, which has historically been pretty good for Dash. That is also good for her. And then you have Bolton. That can be a rough one, but there are ways to mitigate that matchup if you know what you're doing. And then you also have Kasai can be a little rough because you have a whole bunch of attacks, right? Kind of the same reason as Bolton can be a little rough. And then you have KO coming into the mix, right? KO's an interesting one because I know everybody's saying Arc Smash. If you read the card, it just deletes her items, and I get that. But KO runs of at least what I think the optimum build of KO runs a lot of no blocks, probably in the order of like 12 to 15, and red Bear Fangs, red and yellow Wild Ride, and red Pulping probably are what you're looking at, right? And of course, you could trade the Pulpings for like yellow Bear Fangs or something, approximately that many no blocks. So your potential to sit back and fatigue is very slim, right? And also, if you do run Arc Smash, you have to actively take those cards out, which means you have to have a sideboard that's like synergistic and large enough to put those cards in, because you do not want to be drawing a random card and discarding, because if you draw and discard your Arc Smash, you are toast. So I don't think that matchup particularly will be as convincing as, say, Levia or Rhinar. For Dash, anyway. We are still talking about Dash. So she got no upgrades. The new card, I don't think she'll ever run it, or at least not until like Dash.io is like taking over the meta kind of situation. But I think that Dash is still an S tier hero, plain and simple. I think that there could be a situation where enough Levia and Rhinar come into the meta where it could be a rough situation, but I think having such a good matchup into Bravo and um and a lot of the other really good heroes that we're going to put up there, I think that she is still a solid choice. Is she probably towards the lower end of S? Probably. We'll see when we get there, but I think she's not quite at the top, but like obviously an S tier hero. So let's go ahead and hit the next one. Good old Viscerai. There's really been no change. Gold generation isn't going to matter with cash in. You don't have the closing power potential without Rosetta Thorn. There is a world where you could use the new Runeblade card to basically kind of like further the OTK Runeblade, but I think that strategy is just really, really lackluster, to be honest. So I'm gonna say no change and put Viscerai in C tier, unfortunately. I dislike Brute. I'm impressed with KO. KO is some of the most fun I've had playing Flesh and Blood, to be honest with you. There's just like so much that you have to like. Are we differentiating aggro versus fatigue dash? We are not. We are just saying the highest potential of the hero is what we're saying. This is bad. I know. It makes me sad, but calling this is the sleeper of the set. That's interesting because I know you can grab auras, but like Vis just doesn't run that many auras that you're interested in grabbing. I mean, Runeblood Incantation, of course, but like that card is so much better in Vincent than it is in Viscerai. And I know a lot of people are probably going to lean toward a more gold centric, add more cash ins and, a little bit of gold generation and then try to do the whole cash in thing, multiple turns or something like that. But I think that is just adding more inconsistencies to a deck that is already inconsistent is the problem. So as a Runeblade guy myself, I would love to put this hero higher, but I think that he's still just in a rough patch. Wherever he's going on all these card arts, he needs to hurry up and get there because, I don't know. Next hero, we have Azalea. Okay. She's good, right? I don't think there's any arguing. I think deck lists are evolving, and basically people have found ways to either disrespect warmongers or basically play around it via sigil, things like that. Ways to utilize your hand, whether or not you are under. It has to be a wager. Yep. And so like she's a solid player. She does great into dash, good into Bolton, good into. I've heard a lot of Droma players say that that's actually one of the more scary matchups. I think it probably is still Droma favored, but it can be like really scary. The more aggressive they lean. But if you ever go up against Big Dragon, you're probably just toast if that ever makes a return. And so I think she is a solid S tier. Probably one of the best decks in the format. I'm going to put her behind Bravo, but ahead of Dash. Just does so many things. Just so many things. Really, I mean, it really is amazing how you can take like the Runeblade type deck of a bunch of non-attacks and attacks, and just because she gets to look at more cards, reduce the ratio of having to, quote unquote, miss, and how much that does for the output. And then being able to dominate doesn't hurt either. So, but once again, I will put an asterisk on her the more that people can afford to run warmongers, the worse she will do, right? Because we saw Azalea perform at her best in the event of a list like Brody Spurlock's at the 20K, where he just said, you know what? If you got it, you got it. And just said, I don't care. So, um, yeah, if people bring it out and people say, if you have it, you have it, and you have it, then she might not perform as well. But if she's respected, she'll have less performance. If she's not respected, she will excel. Kano. Kano. The last wizard got no support. He got the blue card. The blue card that does very, very little. So really no change on him. Historically, he's had trouble with Rhinar due to Intimidate, getting rid of the cards if Rhinar makes an entry back into the meta. Obviously, a free matchup in regards to Bravo. I don't want to say free, but a very, very, very good matchup. An underdog into Dash, unfortunately. And even Azalea can be pretty rough. So really, he's just not going up against the top decks very, very well is kind of the idea. So I think he's a good deck and does a powerful thing. I think that just currently what I believe the top meta to be, I think Kano will struggle. Simply because, I mean, even Leviathan can get scary, right? Just that instant high damage output can get real scary for Kano. And I'm a huge fan of the Take It on the Chin card. Absolutely love that card. And that's a scary card for Kano because that card says prevent 2 damage. It doesn't say arcane, physical, anything. So running into a whole bunch of people that accidentally run Spell Void 2 cards is kind of scary, to be honest. And then of course you have Prism getting a power bump as well, like mentioned in chat, right? Like there's a lot of scary stuff happening for Kano right now. So I'm not gonna say he's bad. I'm actually gonna leave him exactly where he is. I think he's somewhere on the upper end of B, just kind of dampened by what the top decks in the meta are. Okay, let me double check, make sure that's 4 heroes for Arc. It is. So next set, we have Monarch. That leaves a Leviathan. Leviathan is an interesting one. Leviathan is actually a very interesting one. We saw Ethan off of his great performance at the 20K. Performed very well. We saw solid strategies against people trying to fatigue him, and she does very powerful things, right? Now, you might be asking yourself, what is it that she gained from the set? And that's completely, it's a reasonable question. Basically, I think that she will never run Apex. I think she, out of all the brutes, probably leans on scab skins the most because it's not about getting action points. It's about not dying. And when that's the delta, then you kind of don't want to die. So you run gamblers. So could it be a sideboard piece that comes in on very specific situations? Absolutely. I could see that. But then you have to ask yourself, is it worth that sideboard slot? And that's going to be a very tough question to answer. However, just like chat mentioned, agility. I think Clash of Agility is an instant 3 of, in red, of course. Maybe even 1 or 2 lead with speeds. And then, of course, you might be able to bake Agile Windup into the reason Agile Windup is so good is it's a way to fill your graveyard without agency from your opponent, right? Typically, you might attack and kind of or you might have like a lackluster turn and hope your opponent attacks you so you can lay down a bunch of cards and fill your graveyard. Well, all the windup cards, you can just throw them in the bin, right? Load up that graveyard full of 6s and you are good to go. Agile just happens to be the best one. So I think she can basically fit the yellow agile windups, maybe lead with speed, and definitely the red clash with agilities. And anytime she has access to an agility token, it's basically, hey, I don't need to roll scabbies this turn. Therefore, if you're rolling them less, your gambler's gloves last longer. And she might be so consistent at that point that you could actually put in Apex and get more value and literally have the most armor in the game, which she already does, but what's wrong with even more? So yeah, I think that I never thought I'd say this, but I think Leviah could be S tier, even above Dash. I've never said this before, but I think she's got it. I really do. I think Leviah has it. Simple as that. Just enough upgrades. It wasn't the fact that she got a lot of upgrades. It's just that the upgrades answered exactly what she needed. She just needed consistent go again. Consistent go again. I'm putting her in S tier. Now I understand the argument for A. I get it. But I'm gonna die on this hill. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think that looks a little low for Levi. I'm not gonna go that far, Justin. But I think not enough to melt still being. Look, I think Leviah is so good right now. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't need to bring up the Twitter again, right? I don't need I told you so, do I? Okay, so the other hero is Bolton. Okay, now we saw everyone is in S tier. Well, it turns out that the earlier heroes are having a really good moment. And like I said, as we continue, we will readjust. If we see too many like in one, we'll start comparing closer to each other and stuff like that. S stands for still tier. So now we talk about Bolton. We saw the recent success off of Yuki in the 20K and then Roger Bodie in the finals of the Battle Hardened. So Bolton has had some fairly good success, right? He does something powerful. Historically, it's been a rough matchup for Guardian and Dash, especially if the Dash is on the slower variety. Basically, cannot kill Bolton and he just triple luminous it kills, right? And there's literally just nothing you can do about it. With that being said, there are some rougher matchups. Obviously, we saw the Brody Yuki game, and Azalea can just dumpster Bolton easily, right? And so he does have some weakness, and the Dromai matchup, I'm sorry, is atrocious. The Dromai, I was thinking about playing Bolton I was practicing Bolton like I was going to play it at the 20K, and then I played the Dromai matchup a few times. And I was like, nope, not this. This is not it. So, is he a great deck? I say yes, especially with the build. Let me talk about the new stuff. So, what agility does for Bolton is, and also the front pumps with like lead for speed in Bolton is actually insane, because one, it takes the agency away from your opponent. If you throw it on like a bolt of courage, right, and you bolt for 6 and it goes to 7 if they block with an attack, right, you take the agency away from them that turn and the next turn, right, because your agility token will pop, right. So one card basically gives you the opportunity to take the agency away from your opponent and give it to yourself, which I'm all for anytime. Agile windup as well. He still has some issues, I think, but I think the agility has the opportunity to open up a Bolton list that we've never seen before, that operates on 9 to 12 kind of agility generators kind of situation, and you're not going to be able to shut down any of his turns by just not blocking, right? You're going to have to respect a lot of his attacks. So I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna put him in A tier. Probably on the lower end, but we'll see as we put more heroes in there. But I think that Bolton could easily be in the A tier. Let's go ahead and hit the next set. Tales of Aria. Good thing done. They're all down here. Okay, next. After Tales of Aria was Uprising, right? Yeah, that sounds right. Uprising. So we get to 5. This is going to be a really, really hot take for a lot of you. And I hope Mr. Taco Time's not in the chat right now. It's the only time I'm going to say that, but I hope he's not. I think there's actually zero reason to play this hero right now. I know Mara's going to love to hear that. And I'm even consider, because like you have the defensive version that like Naib was playing, and basically when we get to one of the last heroes, it's going to be very scary for Fi. And plus, just look at the matchups, right? Like this is not an easy matchup for Fi. It's actually very scary because they are basically able to produce almost the same numbers but block well if they get a lesser hand. Levia can literally just out damage you and has so much armor to prevent your snatches from hitting. You get dumpstered by this one, and Bravo's not, once again, the arm piece, the new arm piece for Guardian is insane. Running Mask of Momentum and getting cards is a thing of the past, right? You're not going to be able to do that. They're basically just going to block 2 pieces of equipment, and you're going to Art of War and cry because it's still not going to hit, right? And I just think that, like, you beat up Rhinar. I'll give you that. Like, out of all these heroes up here, you beat up Rhinar. You lose to every matchup up here except for Rhinar. And then let's flip it to the defensive version, right? I think there's just better heroes that do that strategy. If you're trying to play like the very mid-rangey game plan, I just think there's better heroes to do it. Right? Just broke out in Greece. Oh, man. I think Katsu is way better than Fi. I really do. Only bad matchup is Azalea. I'm gonna hard disagree with that one. Like hard disagree. But my hot take is I think Fi is B tier, and probably closer to the bottom. Here comes everybody saying I'm playing Dromai again. Here it goes. I can't wait to hear it. But I mean, tell me how I'm wrong, right? This is like a 50-50. I think you're unfavored here. You're unfavored here. I think you're unfavored here now, especially with the gauntlets. You beat the shit out of Rhinar. Congratulations. You get dumpstered by Katsu, and you get dumpstered by Bolton. And 5's free for Victor. Vero said that too. I was going to save it to the end, but sure. Like, I just don't think. No, Katsu dunks on 5, because if you don't block Katsu, you die. And all his shit blocks too. So I just think that Fi is in a rough spot right now. That's my opinion. Can you put Fi to C tier so he can win a couple battle hearts? No, he's not that bad. He's like respectable. Like if somebody brought him to a tournament, I'd be like, okay, I get it. You don't want to think, but I get it. You know, just kidding. Yeah, Katsu into Fi is probably one of the freest games in Flesh and Blood. It's that bad. Sure, Phi does beat Dromai. Sure. I hope that gets you to top 8. You play nothing but Dromais. Like I said, I knew that was going to be a bit of a hot take because Phi won World Championship, and I'm putting him in B tier immediately after when one set releases. But believe, chat, I'm not gonna lead you astray. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. All right, let's go with the other one. So just because Mara's here, the floor for Dromai is A. Just so everybody. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna put Dromai where I think, and I think I had this discussion with a couple people, and basically, I thought Dromai was in a rough spot, but then after talking about it, they were like, "Wait a second. If that's true, then Dromai should be good." And I re-looked at it, and I was like, "Yeah, that actually makes sense." You're pretty good into Dash. You're pretty good into Azalea, although that matchup can be kind of scuffed. You're okay into Bravo. It's kind of rough into Levia. You do have a little bit of... This is free. I don't want to say free, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think... Yeah, I agree with you, Mara. I think the problem is, I want to put Dromai in S tier, but it looks stupid now, but it'll make sense later. Yeah. I think she's going to be at the bottom of S is kind of what I'm thinking. We'll put her there. We'll put her there. And then, but that's one that I really want to reevaluate. Okay, I'm gonna reevaluate Dromai when we get a couple more heroes in the board. I just want to make sure, right? So don't snip this and tell me I was wrong in a month. You know, when it's incomplete, let me at least finish. Okay. Okay. So the next set was Dynasty, which was Arachne. Okay, now Arachne got 2 cards, right? The weapon and the blue. Yeah, I could see the argument for Dromai being at the top of A, but like I said, we're gonna revisit that one. Oh, this list doesn't have a max. Oh no. Ben, you're the hero. We have to go find a max. Okay, we'll worry about that when we get there. We'll go get a max. Not gonna worry about it. Okay. Sorry, that threw me off. That's crazy that this list doesn't have a max, but I will go get one. I will go get one. Okay. Taylor, this is what a balanced meta looks like. It will fill out, I promise. I think Arachne is going to be the top of C tier. I think he got a little bit better. I think he went from being a meme to like a fringe kind of playable deck. I'm not a big fan of the new weapon. I think that the blue card is really, really good. I think there could be a situation where it could be pitch stack with a bunch of 0 for 4 contract cards, and then you could attempt like a combo mill kind of situation. However, the first time that that's ever witnessed, it'll work once, and then people realize that you just blocked the last 2 in that chain, and you're probably good. And yeah, so I'm not too crazy about Arachne. Okay. He's still got a large burden of proof on him. I would still rather play Azuri by a lot. By a lot. Okay. The next heroes our next hero is going to be Azuri. Is that correct? I think it is. No. Yeah, Azuri and Riptide. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit Riptide. Riptide's actually a pretty interesting one. I he's not amazing. I think everybody knows that. I think he's actually a Graven Call seems good as an alternative into aggro matchup. Yeah, but I mean, is that enough to win the aggro match? I just don't think so. I really don't think it is. But so you're saying Arachne is the best assassin? I'm not. I'm not saying that. So the very offensive Riptide that can kind of like fatigue Bravo if they're not playing correctly. If you need proof of that, go ask Dagon White. He'll let you know. And basically, it's a very good aggro deck. It's a very respectable aggro deck. Does it have some weaknesses? Of course. But it can output some... Basically, the deck that I played against on stream at the 20K, it can put out some pretty intense numbers, pretty good turn cycles. However, you know, CNC is a card. It's obviously really, really good. The problem is there's some decks entering the format that don't mind blocking a lot, and I think that might hinder Riptide a lot too. And then also you have Dromai still up here. You're really good into Azalea, and I think Levi is probably favored. That's my opinion. As good of an aggro deck as Fi, I think it's close. I think it's close, to be honest. I don't think it's I think where he's at might actually be a good spot. He could be at the top of C, but I think he might actually be kind of like lower B kind of situation. I think that's respectable. So let's hit up Azuri. Where's Azuri? Well, we know this matchup is a lost cause. Good here. Good here. If the Azuri player is very solid, I think it's pretty good into Bravo. I think Azuri looks pretty decent, especially with Victor coming into the format. I think Azuri could probably handle that matchup pretty decent. Haven't tested it or heard anything about it, but just the way Azuri plays, Spider Bite's a hell of a card. I think it could be pretty good. And then Frailty tokens against the Warriors, if they ever make an impact, I mean, I think she has the potential to be an A tier. I do. I was actually really down on Azuri for Worlds, and that was mainly due to Icelander also being a horrendous matchup. However, Fire's Riptide tier confirmed. Clipped that. I've been playing a lot of Blitz Riptide. He feels good. Not sure about 40 life. Well, he doesn't have 40 life. He has 38. His grade goes up if his opponent is another aggro deck. Anything else? Exactly. I agree. Azuri kind of feels like upper B. Yeah, I'm going to go with lower A. I think that she matches pretty well into the top decks. Obviously, you have the bummer of a match that will be Prism and Dromai, but I think that everything else could be pretty decent. So I'm going to put her at the bottom of A. Okay, now we have to go into what is Outsiders. Then it is Dusk Till Dawn. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. go and get it out of the way, chat. Vinset. Vinset. She got the new card. The card is actually best in her. I think that it does fix some of her problems, right? It adds another card that increases her consistency of always having rune chant generation turn by turn by being able to tutor the best card in the deck, which is Red Runeblood Incantation. Okay. She has that ability now. However, it does not fix the problem of people winning the game because they choose not to interact in tempo swings with her. And that is her greatest weakness. You just sit back, say, I'm not going to do anything, block her out. She trips up, you lay into her, and she loses, right? Or if you're disruptive enough, then she can't really, like, she has to play a certain way because if you do that, she loses. So she loses so many points. And I don't think that the new card helps that strategy. I think that the new card basically helps if everybody agrees before the game that they're not just going to sit back and block everything, is kind of the problem. So I hate to say it, but we're going to put the Rune Blades together. I think Viscera is better than Vinset. But man, it sucks being a Runeblade guy, putting both your heroes on the bottom. It feels bad below Arachne, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it. The one card's not it's not enough. It's an upgrade. I'm not gonna lie. It's an upgrade, but it's just not. It doesn't fix the issue. It just makes what she currently does better. So we're gonna leave her there. I know, Tanner. I'm sorry. Yeah. Incant is not needed. I mean, that seems like the best thing to tutor out. Seems like the best thing to tutor out. Come over to Florida for RTN season. Is that where the free wins are? No, I'm just kidding. If Rosetta Thorn was still around, yeah, the Rune Blades would probably be up in B, if I had to guess. I don't think it really changes Vinset that much. Probably a little bit opens up possibilities. But yeah, if Rosetta Thorn's out, Viscera's up there. It just doesn't have the closing power. All right, Zach. Hit me with the evidence. Hit me with the evidence, Zach. I gotta hear it. Viscera damn sure wasn't A tier before. So this one card just changed everything, right? Is that what happened? What aura are you gonna go grab with the new Sonata card? I gotta hear it. I mean, the last time I said Viscera was bad, Zach beat me to make top 8 in the calling. So I mean, I've been wrong with that before. But that was back when he had Rosetta Thorn. All right. So we're going to go ahead and go to good old Prism. Prism. Azuri and Riptide are my two favorite decks right now. Not the best here. I mean, I think Azuri's fine. I think Azuri is in a fine spot for sure. Azuri is a respectable deck for sure. I'll produce the evidence in LA. Oh, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay. They got me worried. They got me worried about Viscera. I got to start running like Viscera hate in my list. So Prism, let's talk about Prism. She got what could be considered the most, I don't want to say the best card in the set, but definitely like on like a, I would say one of the most impactful cards of the set. We'll put it that way. Uh, Prism is unproven right now, but I mean, the the dilemma that the Prism players are in is like I kind of hinted on before. If you weren't there, and that is the fact that you have to pick whether you want how much you want to go into the Iris package. Basically, is what you're having to do, and the more you go into that package, the weaker you are to aggro, and vice versa, right? The less you go into it. If you're running this, hey, everybody has you right where they want you. That's a fact. That is a fact. Um, so just off the rip, I think Prism does some very powerful things right now. Does she break the game? That's to be decided. I'm gonna swap those. Um, I know that was just random, but I don't know. I just think Bolton's a better pick than Katsu. It's my opinion, but uh, Prism does some very, very powerful things, and the ball is in her court on what matchup she wants to win. So what's going to happen is you're going to sit in front of a lot of Prism, and you're you're just going to hope that they hedge toward the other side, whichever side you're playing, and then just hope it goes well. Also, I think that Prism's success will teeter out. Let me explain. I think Prism is one of those decks that if you've never played against it or have little reps into it, it can actually be one of the most most punishing. And I'll give you an example. Somebody told me that, and this is actually a neat interaction. I'll share it with all of you. Um, let's say you're playing Ninja, right, which is historically a very favored matchup, and you have a full grip, you have tempo, they have an Angel out, and you play a go again. We'll say like I don't know, a 0 for 4 with go again into the Angel to kill it, right? I'm not saying that you should ever do that. I'm just giving this as an example. There is a situation where they can basically go get Herald of Ravages if they have like Halo or a way to put the card in Soul and deal arcane damage to themselves and then pop the ward on the Angel and then literally end your turn with a full grip, which, depending on how much was invested to do so, they extracted approximately 12 value from doing that because your attack dissolves, you don't get go again, the combat chain is closed, and you have 3 cards in your hand, right? It just ends, right? So, like, if you're not familiar with those interactions, you will get dumpstered a few times. So, I highly advise you get your reps in now. But I think that Prism, and then obviously the Dromize matchup is still horrendous from what I know. Yeah, that's a good. The pitch zone said it well. Prism will end up like Icelander, right? If you have the reps into it, it'll be bearable. But if you don't, you're just such at a disadvantage because you don't know what could happen. But I'm gonna put. I can't put Prism in S tier. It's too much unproven. She does have some weaknesses. There are a lot of brutes rolling around. I think the brute matchup is something that is going to haunt the Prism players for quite some time. I think they're good enough to find a solution, but I think for the meantime, I think they're going to have some problems that they're going to really have to jump through some hoops to solve and might have to give up some things to do so. So I'm expecting big things from Prism, but I'm expecting it to teeter out as people become more familiar on how to play against that hero. Okay. Top of B. That's kind of brutal. That's kind of brutal. But I was a little high on her last time, so it could just be nostalgia. Okay, so we're done with Dusk Till Dawn. Now we have to move in to Bright Lights, right? That is exactly what we have to do. Let's go ahead and put Tekel Voss in there and talk about Dash.io. No shade intended, just it is what it is, chat. Just it is what it is. This is gonna be another hot take. This is gonna be such a hot take. Oh man. I think Dash.io is the worst it's ever been. I think that there are too many decks that have, like, you have Victor coming in, you have Brutes, just so many decks that are either one have the capabilities of really blocking her out and challenging her on that fatigue front, and then you also have a lot of disruption in the format, right? And it can be very concerning to Dash.io. So, I mean, I think she's bad into Azalea. I think the Brutes give her a hard time. I think Dash can be a rough matchup. I mean, it's probably closer to 50-50, to be honest, with OG Dash and Dash.io. Bravo's horrendous, right? We've seen that before. I'm not sure about the Prism matchup, actually. I have no clue. But I'm just like really, really not high on Dash.io right now. And I thought she would be a lot better, but I think she's like extremely, extremely mid right now. I would just rather, if I'm doing like a super aggressive game plan, I would like, I don't know, I'd rather, if I'm going to run no blocks, I would rather it be Bare Fangs and Wild Ride than a bunch of shitty items. I mean, I don't know. I respect Dash.io's output potential and how fun it is to play as a deck. I respect that. But I just feel like this is not the meta to be playing her. There's too much disruption. There's too many things that need to be blocked. And half your deck does not block. And if you have to run a bunch of bad items like mini force field and stuff like that to actually get block value, it's just not where you want to be. It is not where you want to be. So I'm actually going to put her probably there. I think is a fair spot. I think it's a fair spot. We got to go grab Max real quick. Yeah, somebody mentioned it earlier. We got to go grab a Max real quick. Actually, chat, give me 2 seconds. And I'm going to go grab a Max image in like 2 seconds. All right, chat, we got us a Max. We found us a Max. We did it. We did it, chat. We have the Max. Thank you for whoever pointed that out first. I really do appreciate it. It completely like eluded me. Completely eluded me. But he's right there now. We got him in record speed. Max mid A. Okay, well let's talk about it. Let's talk about Max. All right. Max the Hype Nitro. Okay. So I think he has a pretty good matchup into Bravo. The mech suit is obviously very, very powerful, does some very powerful things. Uh, there is a. Obviously, Brute is still an issue, and there is an influx of Brute, right? That is something to be considered. However, I think Max is very good into Dash, bad into Levia, probably probably kind of. I mean, it really depends on how soon you get the mech suit. It's probably slightly Azalea favored, to be honest. Probably with the high octanes, probably does okay. Has a high popper count for Prism, and then bad into Rhinar, and probably okay into Bolton. Nothing crazy. So it seems like he does pretty okay into most of the field, with the exception of the brutes he's really going to struggle into, right? Due to Arc Smash, obviously. And so I think that Max, I think I agree with chat. I think he's going to be up here around in A tier, probably on the lower end, lower to mid kind of situation. Yep, I agree. Max is A tier. Just the potential to just set up Illusionist is free for Max. Yeah, I mean poppers, high octane, all that good stuff. So he's doing some very good, powerful things, right? He just is. So I'm gonna keep him in A. Maybe even above Katsu. We'll put him there. Dang, Katsu was like sick. He just trickled his way down. Okay. And once again, at the conclusion, what we're going to do is kind of talk about every hero and like justify the ranking. So at the end, stuff might change, okay? It may change. Okay. Now we have heavy hitter. It's crazy to think we got 5 heroes in a set. Sorry, 4.5. We got 4.5 heroes in a set, if that doesn't give you a hint. That's actually a very good point, Vishra. There is a lot of pushback on Max. And I wonder if it, I mean, let's be honest, there's no way that Max is as fun of a deck to play as Dash.io, right? I think everybody can agree on that. That might be some of it. Relying on one copy of a card without having a tutor for said card, which is like the differentiation between Bolton, right? That could be it. That could be it. Or people were tired of bright lights. Maybe they got too much mech and they're just wanting to play something else. Could be anything. But we got 4.5 heroes for heavy hitters, right? No, it's not because KO has 1 arm. It's because they didn't finish this one. But that, Ben, your answer is funnier, so we'll go with that. We got 4.5 heroes because KO's got 1 arm. So, well, the Max players shouldn't lose to Buckle if they know what they're doing. They should just not block with their equipment until they are ready to transform, period. Yeah, hyperdrivers are kind of lame too. I agree. Okay, let's do Olympia first. I'm sure everybody has seen the James White interview as far as the hero was kind of rushed toward the end. I don't know if that's the correct way to phrase it, but basically they had less time with him than all the other heroes, and they said expect a gold outlet or whatever for in the near future, basically. So I don't want to say he's an incomplete hero, but I mean, I just don't think he's as fleshed out as the rest of the heroes in heavy hitters. So, show you the Carfax. Show you the Carfax. So, I don't think Olympia is bad. He has access to a really strong card pool. The problem is the card pool that he would be utilizing. I don't know that he would be utilizing it better than Dory or Bolton or Kasai for that matter. Like, I've seen Josh's two one-hander Olympia lists, and I just like, why would you not just play Kasai, right? You have bigger payoffs, you have, higher output. I mean, just in every way, to me, it just seems better. Like, I don't think that Olympia is horrible. I just think that he suffers from that stigma of why would you play him over any of the other warriors? So I'm going to leave him exactly where he is. I think if a lot of the other warriors were gone, I think he could move up. But as of right now, I just cannot imagine a way or a reason to play that hero. I just can't. The payoff for wager and the risk associated with it is just not there. D-Rex will shut you down. And yeah, I just don't see it. Simple as that. Dory should be higher. I can actually agree with that notion. When I placed her there, if you missed that, I did say that she could very easily be into A tier. But that's a great way to put it. Olympia is like Leviah when she first came out. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I completely agree with that. Just not his day. Just not his day right now. So next, let's talk about Betsy. Good old Betsy. Let's talk about some Betsy. Okay. Everybody's seen the hat, chat. Everybody's seen the hat. The hat is great. Nobody's arguing that. The question is, in a weird way, I think that Betsy reminds me of kind of like Dory a little bit, right? Dory had, for the longest time, absolutely zero disruption. She had offensive on hits, but like nothing that ever negatively influenced your opponent. Period, right? But she had stuff that like helped her. And Betsy is giving me those vibes. Like, you have some good value rotations with popping the gold token, swinging Anthos, and hitting overpower. Those are some great lines. However, I just don't know that in the game of Flesh and Blood, right now at this point, that doing something above rate a few times in the game is enough. And I don't think it's like that much above rate. And there's just not that much disruption associated with it. Like, sure, you can put Spinal Crush in Betsy. Like, that's fine and everything. But then it's just a worse Bravo card. Like, yes, you can throw a one-cost wager pump on it and give it overpower. Like, I understand what you can do. It just, I don't know. The payoff just is not there. I would much rather. Now, when Bravo goes, I think the conversation opens for Betsy to kind of lean in and take her place and do some more powerful things. But for the time being, I gotta put her below Fi, above Riptide. I think that's a pretty fair placement. Once again, not a horrendous hero, but I don't think she can pull her weight. That's all I'm saying. So next. Bravo the new Oldham, Betsy the new Bravo. Well said. Well said. And not only that, but like, if you ever play Unmovable and against Betsy, it feels like the freest game on the planet. She wagers with you, she cries because she just gave you a bunch of stuff. It's just so much risk. So much risk. But yeah. Yeah, exactly. Imagine if crush effects were like wager, and if you lose, you got hit. Exactly. Like there's just so much risk associated with that hero. Let's talk about Kasai, because Kasai, this one's hard. I'm gonna be honest with you, chat. This and Dory can play out so many ways, uh, in ways that are. But then you have unmovable in your list. Yeah, I'm just or any D react, right? Like armor and a sink below, like you're good, right? Um, but yeah, like Kasai and Dory, I think are the hardest heroes to evaluate on this list, and it's just because so many tools were introduced and it opens up so many different play styles that now I'm very familiar with. Sorry about that. So basically, if anybody is familiar with, I'm a big fan of Hatchet's Dory, right? And Kasai pretty much plays like that, right? You have the two one-handers, you have a lot of access to go again, you have the dynamos. If you want to play that style, I think dynamos are the correct foot piece for Kasai, just because you just get a raw amount of value from it. And agility is just really good in warrior. It just is that's literally just how it is. And she has the crazy output of blood on her hands. Now, if you saw our warrior set review, I mentioned that I was not crazy high on Raise an Army. I think it's a solid card and it plays a role, but it is not um it is not a great card. As far as it's not like something that you're going to set out and like try to play in every single game and it's going to change every single game. I think it's a just cool if it happens kind of card, even the sideboard piece. Um, Now, Blood on Her Hands is a completely different situation. Blood on Her Hands is an insane card. And what I see happening with Kasai is going to be, I think that in the beginning, people are going to disrespect Spoils of War. And then they're going to get dumpstered. Okay. And because Kasai becomes a lot more manageable if you just reduce the copper generation. And if your deck can do that, now not all decks have the ability to do, that's easier said than done, right? But if the Kasai players line up a reaction when you don't have a D react on Spoils of War, it can literally just win you the game because then it makes Blood on Our Hands a very impactful card and have a lot of impact in the game off of one card. Now, I think that when people get used to playing against Kasai, I think her market share will drastically decrease. I think she'll make a strong impact at the beginning, but kind of teeter out. A lot like I said with Prism. I think when you get a lot of reps into Kasai, you start to feel a lot more comfortable in the play patterns and what you need to respect and what you do not. And so I think that Kasai is going to be a respectable A grade. As far as where, I would say slightly above Azuri, maybe. Not toward the top. I don't think she's there. But I think she does some very powerful things. And here's one thing I wanted to point out real quick. We've placed 3 of the 4.5 new heroes, and none of them are in the bottom tier, right? And well done by LSS, right? They are printing heroes that are actually going to impact the meta, and you're about to see how much they're going to impact the meta when we place the last 2. So yeah, I think Kasai is a solid role player. Basically going to have a footprint in the meta. It's not going to be, if it is large at the beginning, it's going to be just because people love to play her, and she is a very fun deck to play. But as people learn the play patterns and know how to play against her and know when to save the D-Reacts for Spoils of War, I think her performance will start to teeter a little bit. Not horrendously, but just slow down. Next, just in case, we have Olympia, playable but not crazy. Yep. Yeah, he's not bad. I just think that there's so many reasons to play the other heroes is kind of where I'm at with Olympia. So let's talk about KO. Good old can't clap. As I mentioned previously in the stream, this is one of the most fun decks I've played in a long time in Flesh and Blood. Probably the funnest deck I've played since Runeblade. Has powerful turn cycles. I think during the last stream, it was Sam Dando that said it's like having CMH every turn. And it kind of does feel like that sometimes. But however, you do have a hero that runs a bunch of no blocks. I say a bunch, like 12 or so, give or take, depending on your preferred ratios and whatnot. But has very strong, consistent output and can actually play. It's like a very aggressive deck that could play a very solid mid-range game. Kind of reminds me of a hero that I used to know. Reminds me a lot of Briar's play patterns. Has the very offensive output, but has the armor, has a bunch of 3 blocks. Unfortunately, he doesn't have 4 blocks. That's a little less unfortunate considering Briar did, but the similarities are there. I think he does some very powerful things. Although the tweet that I saw literally had me dying. Somebody on Twitter posted that they thought they were worried about KO's damage output until We Make Best made a video saying they were broken and they were no longer worried about it. And that had me dying laughing. It was so funny. Nick is trolling now. Dash.io above Arachne. It's crazy. Don't do my boy Vis dirty. I'm sorry. I already know what to expect. Oh, man. Yeah, Olympia's payoff is cash in, sure, but like, it's just not enough. I think it's just not enough. So I think KO is Cast Bones. Insane. Such a good card. Blood Rush Bellow does not need to be explained. You have the Apex Arms. Contrary to popular belief, Guardian is not the best Clash deck in the game. The best hero, on average, that will win Clashes more than anybody else is actually KO. And that's because the biggest Clash breakpoint, if you will, is 7. Because a lot of heroes run, like comparing KO to Guardian, there's so many blue 6s in the deck, it's ridiculous, right? And so KO, if he reveals any of his 6s, which there's approximately like 30 of them, he wins every time because that's going to show as a 7. So KO is actually a better Clasher than Guardian, any of the Guardians for that matter. I think KO's at the top of A tier. That's where I think KO is. Fun to play. Very similar power level to Levia. In fact, if you're concerned about managing blood debt with Levia, I would highly recommend you pick up KO as an alternative because it's very similar in a lot of ways as far as damage output and stuff like that. Play patterns are very different. But good armor, solid output, high roll potential, can back up into a very mid-range game plan, and you don't have to manage the fact that you can die out of nowhere. So I really recommend people that were maybe scared or intimidated by all the mechanics involved with Levia to try KO out. Highly, highly recommend it. I'm having a blast playing him personally. So I think that he will make an immediate impact on the meta. Is he going to take it over? I don't think so. But solid value rotations on turn cycles and has the ability to back up and play a mid-rangey game plan with Ball Breaker. And yeah, solid hero all around. Okay, Victor. We got to talk about Victor. I have a little story about Victor, and I like to admit when I'm wrong because I'm that type of person. I don't like to. Um, I love to point out when I'm right, and I love to point out when I'm wrong because I think you learn from both. And so when Victor was initially released, I thought that he was very bad. When people saw my first thoughts on the set before 75% of the set released, I put him at like potentially one of the worst heroes, down with Olympia. And yeah, here's Vero coming in. Yep. And then the rest of the set got spoiled, specifically Trounce, Test of Strength, cards like that. And I was like, I still do not believe in this hero. I understand the value, but like, I think Bravo is just a better game plan. Well, then I played against it. And the value cycles can actually be off the charts. For those of you who don't know, Trounce, if you win in Victor, it is like a 10 value card because you make the might, the vigor, the gold. You block 3, which is 6, and then you draw a card, which is 3 to 4. If you win, of course. The problem is there's so many decks in the format where you're not going to have any problem beating those decks. That's a good point, Vero. That's a good point. Test of Strength was the first card. I didn't see Trounce, though. I did not see Trounce. And I just could not beat it out of my head enough to where I was like, I don't see any point to play it. You're going to lose the Guardian Mirror because, like Taylor said, I said that there was no like closing power, right? Now, I do think Victor is a dog into Bravo. I'm standing firm on that. Trounce is not Codex of Frailty. It is not. But with Victor, I thought he was going to be bad, but he's S tier. And I know Vero and Taylor are probably in the Discord fucking cheering right now. But I have to admit when I'm wrong. And that's how the cookie crumbled, basically. Victor is not a fatigue deck. I do not believe in the Sledge Vigor plan. That's not how I would play the deck personally. I think that he is a offensive and fatigue via attrition. The one thing that I love is they designed his hero ability in a way to where to play the hero you can't run all your life gain, and that should be your hint. That should be your hint on how he's not a straight up fatigue deck. Is you literally can't add life gain cards without an extreme opportunity cost in the form of losing your clashes. So the point is, Victor's really good. To the point to where it's warping the decks that I'm thinking of playing. Because the scariest part about Victor being so good is his play lines are some of the most straightforward things in Flesh and Blood. Yeah, I think that Victor will run the Millhammer in the shield and then probably Anathos in the sideboard. That is correct. And Justin, what are you saying no shot about? Victor is like Oldham. A little bit. Yeah, show up with Hatchetory again. Oh, that was funny. But with it all being said, I think that Victor is a really good deck. Basically has good output damage. And if you try to set up on him, he has the ability to really punish that. With the old fashioned, you know, only put Victor in S tier due to bribery. He's just a good deck. I mean, I trust me. I wanted nothing more than to put that hero in C tier, but I'm a man of value, and yeah, that's how it landed. So now that all the heroes are placed, I want to go back over and kind of just talk about, okay, KO. How does he fare into Bravo? How does he fare into Azalea? And then just kind of reconfirm and move around a little bit and just talk through the thought process, right? Victor would be on the Millhammer shield and then Anathos on the sideboard. If I guess. No shot he's S tier. I'll believe it when I get trounced. That's right. You never forget your first one. All right. Bravo. How does Bravo do into Azalea? Really good. Okay into Levia, bad into Dash, mid into Dromai, favored into Victor, and so pretty solid, right? Azalea is bad into Dromai, mid into Levia, good into Dash, probably. That's a tricky one, actually. I'm not sure how that one plays out. And then mid into Dromai. So we could see a. Then Levia is mid into Bravo, mid into Azalea, good into Dash, probably good into Victor if they play it well. And then probably good into Dromai. So she's good into. She's not bad into any of the top decks, and she's good into some of them, which is a great place to be. Dash is good into Bravo, bad into Azalea, bad into Levia, good into Victor, and kind of bad into Dromai. So she might be even a little lower. Dromai is good into Dash, good. Come back to that. Mid into Bravo, mid into Azalea, and probably a little bad into Levia, if I had to guess. The Victor and Dromai matchup is actually very interesting because Bravo is favored into Victor. That much I 100% know. Do we get to see your Victor on stream? I actually don't enjoy playing that hero. It's kind of mindless. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make, not saying that Bravo is like rocket science, but like, I don't know. I like Tunic, Pummel CNC too much in Bravo to go to Victor probably. But maybe. We might do it for a stream. Feels like too many in S, or the devs balance the game correctly. I'll leave it up to you to decide. There doesn't have to be a singular best deck. There doesn't have to be a triangle format. I think that the meta right now, I mean, if you look at all of these, there are weaknesses, right? Like Bravo, you're down on Dash. Levia can be rough, right? Like everybody has their weaknesses. Do some have less? Sure, we can make that argument. I just keep moving Bolton up more and more. I don't know what it is. Mindless? I have friends who love him. I mean, if that's your thing, that's your thing, right? That's just, I like to, think a little bit during my matches. So I'm pretty okay with this. We might even do that. I'm okay with this top list. I think the top is fine. Let's go to A and like reassure ourselves. KO is probably okay into Bravo, although the no blocks can put him into some situations. Same thing for Azalea. Probably okay. This is probably like 50-50. I think KO's actually pretty good into Victor because Cast Bones ways to like stack really high damage. Probably good into Dromai and good into Dash. So I think top of A is a very reasonable place for KO. And then you have Prism, which is going to be. I guess we're just gonna have to hit the I believe button on Prism because I can't do multiple scenarios on whether they're leaning more toward Iris or the new weapon or like how much they've sacrificed in their sideboarding to place appropriately. I think Dory is top of A. When I placed her, I said that I entirely could have seen her in the A tier when I placed her. However, I'm a believer, 100%. But I think there's a large burden of proof. Also, the thing about Dory is her performance is indicative of or reliant on how the meta shapes up as far as like how much they defend and like what are they defending with? Are we talking reactions, instant speed stuff, or are we just blocking, right? And a lot of that plays a heavy toll on whether Dory is good. Although now she has a lot of access to so much more go again. I understand that Twinning Blade is so much better. But I think there's just a lot of unknowns in regards to her. So, Bolton. Why is Bolton good? Bolton has historically been good to Bravo. Bad against Azalea. Okay into Levia. Probably pretty good into Victor, to be honest with you. Bad into Dromai and pretty good into Dash. So it seems pretty like 50-50, maybe 60-40-ish into the top bracket, which is a pretty good place to be. And then he's also pretty good into Prism as well. So Bolton's doing really good for himself right now. Reinar's pretty good into Bravo, pretty good into Victor, pretty good into Dash, and pretty good into Dromai, but really suffers into Azalea and KO and Levi. They just put too much offensive output out for Reinar to handle. Really lessens the value of the Intimidate. And Max for basically pretty good into Dash, mid into Dromai, and probably really good into Victor. Bad into Levia, mid into Azalea, and probably pretty good into Bravo. So that's a pretty good placement there. You beat up on Prism, probably lose to KO, and probably lose to Bolton. For Katsu, you're going to be good, kind of mid into Dash, good into Dromai, bad into Victor, so bad into Victor, mid into Levia, bad into Azalea, and I think slightly unfavored into Bravo now because of the gauntlets. Probably favored into KO and Prism. Seems good. And then Kasai, yep, seems pretty good. And then Azuri is one I really want to talk about as far as like solidifying her in A. Pretty good at the highest level, good into Bravo, good into Azalea, mid to bad into Levia, and could potentially outvalue Victor due to Spider Bite. Horrible into Dromai. And decent into Dash. So I think that I could see Azuri a little bit higher, honestly. Bad into Prism. We'll keep her there for now. but I think she is a solid A tier. Let's talk about Dory as the last one, and the rest of them will just let them be where they are. I've spent long enough talking about Fi and how my hot take is, what it is. Let me get caught up in chat real quick. S tier feels so crowded to me. I feel like some of the decks are up there. I don't know. I think the format is really balanced right now. I think looking to see if your tunic is up and you have CNC pummel in your hand as mindless as it gets. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. If there are more than 2 S tier that are actually A tier. Don't think Levi belongs in S tier. Prism hybrid. Yep, of course, of course. Show you why Katsu is too low. Oh. So let's talk about Dory real quick. Let's talk about Dory. I just want to justify Dory real quick. Dory into Bravo. Okay. The more that Bravo leans offensively, I think the better Dory gets. The problem is that Dory has to play that weird chain dynamic where you just don't know what the Bravo player is up to. Are they running 13 and a half staunches? Or they, you just don't know. So sometimes you have to add cards that may not be ideal in an aggressive situation. So I think this is slightly unfavored. I want to say you're slightly unfavored against Azalea. Probably mid into Leviah. I think you're actually pretty good into Victor. Victor can't run too many D-reacts or he'll lose the clashes. Although, well, no. Nah, I take that back. Victor's going to dumpster Dory because he'll win every single clash and just extract too much value, no matter whether you get over a couple times or not. Dory does have access to a lot more go again. I think the Dromai matchup will be a lot better. I do not think it'll be Dory favored, though. And Dory has historically been good into Dash. I think Dory will punish KO for the no blocks. I think that will be a real problem, although No Fear is a card, and it's a very good card. Prism, historically, has been a very big problem for Dory, and I see that to continue. Dory beats the shit out of Bolton. Can just fatigue and do whatever she wants. She can play with her food, doesn't matter. Reinhardt, historically, has been a very bad matchup for Dory. And then into Max, probably pretty decent into Max, although I wouldn't say like super favorite or anything. And probably okay in the Katsu. Plenty of armor. And then for the same reason, I think Dawnblade Dory specifically beats out Kasai for the same reason into Bolton. Centauri Sabers are always off. That's a huge advantage. And then kind of bad into Azuri. So the matchup spread feels very 50-50. Like you're really in a spot you want to be in or you're really not. So like I said, I could see Dory at the very, very bottom of A tier. But I mean, at that point, you're just going over semantics, right? Like you're just going over whether she's at the top of B, lower A. I mean, I think she's in a fair spot. Fair spot. I think Katsu is even into Bravo and Azalea, unfavored into Levia. Victor, probably terrible. Favored in Dromai. Yeah. I think Bravo's slightly favored now because the Gauntlets put in work. I don't know about Katsu. I mean, I see the argument for Azalea, though. But I don't know. What if Dory plays Hatchets in Decimator? That's a good question. That's something I've spent a lot of time on, and I think Hatchets is pretty good into Bravo, pretty good into Azalea. Very mid to bad into Victor. Better than you would think into Dromai, although it's probably like 50-50, maybe a slight underdog. Um, good into dash. Hatches could be enough to bring into A tier. I could see that. Hot Streak Saber is just way better than Hatchets. I'm gonna have to disagree with that one, but I understand your thought process. It's guaranteed go again in most cases on the Hot Streak if they're trying. I think that's a good anti-fatigue pivot. The problem is you're giving up so much. It's not even for cleave. It's the fact that you're giving up one guaranteed point of value every single turn you swing two weapons. And I think that's enough to push it in the favor of hatchets. That's my opinion, though. As all this is. Katsu unfavored into Bravo. I agree. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say hugely unfavored, but I mean, slightly. So, I think this is going to conclude the tier list. So, please clip this, send it to me in a month when I'm wrong, or send it to me in a month when I'm right. I'm happy either way. I hope that the tier list serves everyone well in their efforts in either Hartford or RTN season or even LA. For those of you attending any of those. Obviously, RTNs are a lot more localized, so this is not going to be like a one-for-one kind of situation. In RTNs, at least with my experience, players like to really play what they just love to play, and it's not necessarily meta-dependent. That's one thing to keep in mind when you look at RTN data. Don't forget that. Although when you take the RTN data as a whole, all of that kind of averages out. It just seems a lot different when you're just playing an RTN. Because you'll just show up to a random RTN, there'll be 14 and a half Dromize, and there's like literally no reason. I mean, that's happened in a lot of times in my area, where just one hero will be overrepresented for absolutely no reason. Because it's just what people like to play, and that's okay. What hero do you think has the greatest potential to get raided? Not necessarily by herself. Yeah, well, if you didn't add the caveat, I'd say Prism, because I think she's on Prism right now. But I'm assuming you're referring to just like back-to-back win. I would have to go with Bravo. Oh, who is the sleeper pick? Okay, that's what you meant. Okay. Who's the sleeper pick that can go back to back? I'm gonna go Dory. I think Dory is the sleeper pick for where she is. I think Dory has the most upward potential to just. I'm not happy with Fi right now. Like I just don't see the point. So I'm gonna pick Dory as my dark horse in the bottom two tiers. Although that's kind of cheating because I said that she could easily be A. But yeah, I hope this was of value to everybody. And maybe you learned something. Maybe you saw something in a different way. Feel free to leave something down in the comments. I'm always happy to talk about things, discuss things. I never claim to know everything. I just claim to have a very good thought process on a lot of things and fairly good at theorizing and analyzing things. I don't think Olympia is a sleeper, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited to see how it unfolds. These are like my favorite type of videos to do. Also, those who stuck around to the end, I have a little extra. Let me. I found something. If anybody needs cheap playmat holders, I Found these at 5 and below for like $5, and it fits a playmat like perfect, and it's like sturdy. And obviously, don't go crazy with the candy, right? Saving a couple bucks on a playmat holder is not worth it when you're like buying insulin shots. But like, if you want to like use the candy for like Halloween and like stuff like that, like it's like, I thought it was pretty neat. It was literally $5. You can throw a playmat in it and like store it. Like I thought it was kind of cool. And like I said, it's like sturdy. And you get to walk around with like a candy tube. 5 and below, $5, playmat holder. I'm all about value, chat. It's as simple as that. I'm all about the value. All about the value. And don't hand me Sour Patch Kids. Oh, that's what it is. I will say that it's like just too long. I think the playmat comes to about right there. So there's like a little too much, but like it fits and it fits in your bag like side pocket perfectly, and there's your playmat, easy peasy. And the bottom's even like aluminum, like it's sturdy. $5. No, it does not smell like candy because the candy inside is like individually wrapped in plastic. They're like those little like single serving size where it's like they're like individually wrapped. So 0 candy smell. 0. Never enough, Gert. That is a certified dad moment. But yeah, there you go. Easy. I'm always trying to give value to my viewers, and that I don't know what better way. Y'all don't know the half of it. I knew I was going to marry my wife the first time I saw her use a coupon, y'all. I'm telling you. She's laughing. You'll smell like diabetes. Yeah, you don't eat all the candy. That's the point. Is you get like the playmat tube, like a playmat tube at a LGS is like $8 probably, like the super cheap, just clear, like that's it. It's probably like $8, maybe 7. So you get it for like $2 cheaper, and you can like use the candy for Halloween or something. Like I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, don't go overboard with the candy inside. Find other purposes for the candy. Do not eat it all. Yeah, you will you will coop way more than $5K at the dentist and just your health. So like, don't go overboard. Give it out or something. I don't know. Hell, throw it away. It's still cheaper than buying the playmat too. But yeah, we hit over 200 today. That's awesome. I just want to thank everybody so much for being here. Once again, give candy to your opponent. Only if they win. We don't reward failure. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, like, whatever. Find something to do with the candy. It doesn't matter. The candy's irrelevant. It's just a bonus. Just a bonus. Eat the whole thing and learn what fatigue really means. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah. Thanks, everybody, for being here. It means so much. Once again, Friday, we're playing a show match against Team Blue Pitch. It's a 5v5, best of 5. We're going to try and play as many heroes that are playing new cards. Yours truly will be... I don't want to spoil it. It might be the hero that we talked about last. It might be what I'm playing. And, yeah. So I'm super excited about that. That'll be Friday night. I'm not sure exactly what time. It'll probably be like 9 or 10 Eastern, if I guess. It should be like late enough to where like you can join us after your pre-release. Also, everybody has pre-releases this weekend. Good luck on your pulls. Hope everybody has a great time. I'm looking so forward to Heavy Hitters Limited format. It looks like one of the best. and really, really, really looking forward to it. And yeah, and for those, if you haven't heard the news, previously I was not going to Hartford, Connecticut for the calling. However, things changed, and I will be there. Looking forward to that. And please say hi if you are going as well. So yeah, if there are no questions in chat, I'll give you guys like a few seconds to throw any questions in if you have any. I think this is about as good. I'm going to show the tier list one more time in case we got somebody just coming in or anything. I think this is about as good of a tier list as anybody can make with the information that is available to us. Once again, these are not 100% accurate all the time. However, I've had some decent success in the past. And I think those are some solid estimations. So it looks like there's no questions in chat. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Once again, thanks everybody so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Good luck this weekend on everybody's pools. Have some fun. Play some heavy hitters. Don't fatigue people. It doesn't work in sealed. And I will see everybody next